My daughter looked me dead in the eye and said words I'll never forget. "Mama, if you're not going to help us when we need you most, then maybe you should find somewhere else to live." I stood there in her granite-countered kitchen, the kitchen I'd helped pay for, holding a cup of coffee in my trembling hands. 72 years old, a retired Navy captain, a widow of 3 years, and my own child had just told me to get out. "Nia, baby, I'm not saying I won't help," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I'm saying $300,000 is what, Mama? Too much to invest in your own family?" Her husband Terrence stood behind her with his arms crossed, that smile on his face that I'd learned to hate. "My startup is about to take off. This is a sure thing. We just need this one investment to get over the hump." I'd heard that before. 5 times before, actually. "Terrence, I've given you money for 4 other business ideas that never worked out. I'm 72 years old. I need to protect what I have left." "What you have left?" Nia's voice rose sharp and cold. "Mama, you're sitting on Daddy's life insurance, his pension, your pension, and the money from selling the house. You have plenty. We're your family. Or does that not matter anymore?" My heart cracked right down the middle. That's when I knew. After 15 years of writing checks, covering mortgages, paying car notes, funding private school tuition for my grandbabies, keeping their lights on when Terrence's businesses failed. After all of that, I wasn't their mama. I was their ATM machine. And the machine had just said no for the first time. Before we continue, shout out to Regina from Detroit. We appreciate the love you show by commenting and sharing. Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how I got here. My name is Dorothy Jean Carmichael. Captain Dorothy Jean Carmichael, United States Navy, retired. I served my country for 30 years, worked my way up from enlisted to officer, and I did it as a black woman in a military that didn't always want me there. My late husband, James, served 25 years himself before he became a contractor. We built a good life. We saved our money. We bought a nice house in a good neighborhood in Columbus, Georgia. We raised our daughter right, or so we thought. Nia was our only child. We gave her everything. Dance classes, piano lessons, took her to church every Sunday at Greater Hope Baptist. James and I made sure she went to Spelman College, graduated debt-free. We were so proud when she became a teacher. Even prouder when she married Terrence Bolden, who had a degree in business and big dreams. The problem started small. It was 2010, just a year after their wedding. Nia called crying, saying they were behind on their mortgage. The housing market had crashed, Terrence's sales job wasn't bringing in what they expected, and her teacher salary could only stretch so far. As a mama, what was I supposed to do? James and I sent them $5,000. Then another $3,000 2 months later. Then we started paying their mortgage directly, just until they got back on their feet, they said. 2 years later, Terrence quit his job to start his first business. Some kind of consulting company that never got a single client. We paid their bills for 6 months while that fell apart. Then he tried a clothing line, then a meal prep delivery service, then a real estate investment scheme that lost $20,000 of our money. But Nia loved him, and they gave us 2 beautiful grandbabies, Amara and Jordan. So we kept helping. James started keeping records of everything we gave them. He was meticulous like that, always organized. He kept a file folder labeled Nia and Terrence, with copies of every check, every bank transfer, every receipt. At first I thought he was being paranoid. "Dorothy, I love our daughter, but something ain't right," he told me one night in 2018. We were sitting on our back porch and he had that folder on his lap. I added it up. "We've given them over $250,000 in 8 years. That's not help anymore. That's a lifestyle." "They're struggling, James. They're driving a BMW, Dorothy. They just put in a pool. Nia's wearing a Louis Vuitton bag, but they can't pay their own mortgage?" He shook his head. "I'm telling you, baby, we're being used." I didn't want to believe him. I couldn't. This was my child, my only baby. Then James died. Heart attack, sudden and cruel in the spring of 2022. One minute he was mowing the lawn, the next minute he was gone. 68 years old. And just like that, I was alone. The grief nearly killed me. We'd been married 45 years. He was my best friend, my rock, my partner in everything. The house felt too big and too empty without him. I couldn't sleep in our bedroom. I couldn't eat at our kitchen table. Everything reminded me of what I'd lost. Nia came to the funeral and held my hand while I cried. After the service, after the repast at the church, she sat with me in my living room. "Mama, you can't stay here alone," she said softly. "This house is too big, and you're going to be lonely. Why don't you sell it and come live with us? We have that guest suite on the first floor. You'd have your own space, your own bathroom. The kids would love having Grandma around all the time." I was vulnerable and heartbroken. It sounded like a blessing. "Are you sure, baby? I don't want to be a burden. Mama, stop. You're my mother. You've done everything for us. Let us take care of you now." So I sold the house. James and I had bought it in 1995 for $90,000. It sold in 2022 for $320,000. Combined with James's life insurance, his pension payout, and my own retirement accounts, I had about $900,000 in assets. More than enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life if I was careful. I moved into Nia and Terrence's house in Atlanta in July 2022. At first, it was nice. I had my own space. I got to see Amara and Jordan every day. They were 12 and 9 then, sweet kids. I'd take them to the park, help with homework, cook Sunday dinners like I used to do. Nia seemed happy to have me there, but Terrence started asking for money almost immediately. "Miss Dorothy, you know that room you're staying in? We were thinking of renovating it before you moved in, but we ran out of funds. Since you're living there now, would you mind chipping in? Maybe $25,000 to cover the costs?" I wrote the check. Then it was a new roof. "The inspector said we need it replaced, and it's $40,000. Can you help us out? You live here too, after all." I paid for half. Then Jordan needed braces. Amara wanted to go to a private high school. Terrence's car broke down, and he needed a reliable vehicle for his business meetings that cost $35,000. Nia said her teaching salary wasn't enough, and could I help with groceries and utilities since I lived there? I started giving them $2,000 a month. Every time I hesitated, they'd remind me, "You live here rent-free, Mama," or, "After everything we do for you," or my favorite, "Don't you want your grandbabies to have the best?" By early 2025, I'd given them another $200,000 on top of the $250,000 from before. I'd run through almost half of everything James and I had built in our entire lives. But I told myself it was worth it. Family takes care of family, right? That's what Mama taught me. That's what the church teaches. But James's voice echoed in my head. We're being used. I started keeping my own records, continuing what James had started. Every payment, every request, every guilt trip that came with it. The file folder grew thicker. Then came March 2025. Terrence walked into my room one evening with that smile on his face, the one that meant he wanted something. Nia stood in the doorway behind him. "Miss Dorothy, I need to talk to you about an opportunity," he said, sitting down on my couch uninvited. "I've been working on a tech startup, an app that connects Black-owned businesses with consumers. It's revolutionary. I've got investors interested, but I need $300,000 to get it off the ground. This is it, Miss Dorothy. This is the one that's going to make us millions." My stomach dropped. $300,000. A third of everything I had left. "Terrence, that's a lot of money. It's an investment, not a gift. You'd be a partner. When this takes off, you'll get your money back plus 50% returns. Maybe more." I looked at Nia. She nodded encouragingly. "Mama, this could change everything for our family. Terrence has really done his research this time." I thought about the consulting company that never consulted anyone, the clothing line that never sold a single shirt, the meal prep service that lasted 3 months, the real estate deal that lost everything. I need to think about it, I said. Terrence's smile faded. What's there to think about? This is your family. I understand that, but it's a lot of money, and I need to... You know what? Terrence stood up. I thought you'd want to be part of something big, but I guess you'd rather just sit on your money and watch your family struggle. He walked out. Nia lingered for a moment. Mama, please think about it seriously. Terrence is really hurt. He thought you believed in him. She left me sitting there, my hands shaking. I spent a week praying on it. I talked to my pastor, Reverend Williams at Greater Hope. I'd started attending the Atlanta branch after moving. I talked to my friend Geneva, who'd been my roommate at Norfolk State back in the day. I talked to my accountant. Everyone said the same thing. Dorothy, you've given enough. So that Sunday morning, I walked into the kitchen where Nia was making breakfast and Terrence was drinking coffee. I've made my decision about the investment, I said. I can't do it. $300,000 is too much. I need to preserve what I have left for my old age, for medical expenses, for emergencies. I'm sorry. That's when everything changed. Nia set down her spatula slowly. You're serious? Baby, I've given you all so much over the years. I love you, and I'll always help where I can, but this is more than I can afford to lose. Lose? Terrence slammed his coffee mug down. So you think I'm going to lose your money? After everything I've told you about this opportunity? I didn't mean it like that. Yes, you did. He stepped closer. You know what your problem is, Dorothy. You don't have any vision. You're stuck in your old ways, scared of taking risks. That's why you'll die with money in the bank and nothing to show for it. Terrence, I said sharply, using my captain voice, you will not speak to me that way. Then maybe you should find somewhere else to live where you can make your own rules. He turned to Naya. Tell her, baby. And that's when my daughter looked me in the eye and broke my heart. Mama, if you're not going to help us when we need you most, then maybe you should find somewhere else to live. The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear the clock ticking on the wall. I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. Nia, what did you just say to me? I'm sorry, Mama, but Terrence is right. We've taken care of you for almost 3 years. We've given you a home, fed you, included you in our family. And the one time we ask for something big, you turn us down? That's not fair. Not fair? My voice cracked. Baby, I've given you nearly $500,000 over 15 years. And we've never asked you to keep track. Nia's voice rose. That's what family does. They help each other without keeping score. But I had kept score. James had kept score. Every single check, every transfer, every request was documented in that folder hidden in my closet. I think I should pack my things, I said quietly. I think that's best, Terrence said, not even looking at me. Nia's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't take it back. She didn't tell me to stay. She just turned back to her eggs and kept cooking breakfast like she hadn't just thrown her own mother out of her house. I went to my room and closed the door. Then I sat on my bed and cried until I couldn't cry anymore. When the tears stopped, something else took over. Not sadness, not grief. Something sharper and stronger. Anger. I walked to my closet and pulled out the file folder that had grown into 3 file folders. 15 years of receipts. 15 years of bank statements. 15 years of proof that I hadn't just been a mother. I'd been a bank, an ATM, a resource to be drained dry and then discarded when I finally said no. I started packing. Every piece of clothing, every photo, every reminder of the life I'd tried to build here. It took me 4 days. Nia and Terrence avoided me the whole time. The kids didn't even know I was leaving. They kept them busy with activities and friends. On the 4th day, I loaded the last box into my car. I'd found a nice senior living apartment in Columbus, near my old church, near Geneva. A fresh start, away from people who'd used me up. Before I pulled out of the driveway, I looked back at the house one more time. That beautiful house with the granite counters and the pool and the BMW in the driveway. The house my money had saved 5 times over. The house that had never really been my home. I put the car in drive. In the passenger seat sat 3 file folders and a business card that Pastor Williams had given me. "Dorothy," he'd said, "if you ever need a good lawyer, call this man, Samuel Fletcher. He attends our church, and he's the best." I looked at the card. Then I looked at the file folders. Then I smiled for the first time in weeks, pressed my foot on the gas, and drove away from my daughter's house. They thought I was just a grieving old widow they could push around. They thought I'd given them all that money because I was weak or desperate or lonely. They forgot I was Captain Dorothy Jean Carmichael. And captains don't go down without a fight. The apartment in Columbus was small, clean, and quiet. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, a little kitchen, and a living room with a view of the parking lot. After living in Nia's 4-bedroom house with the vaulted ceilings and crown molding, it should have felt like a downgrade. Instead, it felt like freedom. Geneva helped me unpack that first week. She's 74, retired from teaching, and still sharp as a tack. We'd been friends since college, and she'd never liked Terrence from the start. "I told you that man was a user," she said, folding my towels and putting them in the bathroom cabinet. Soon as I met him at the wedding, I knew. He had that look in his eyes, always calculating, always scheming. "I should have listened to you," I said, unpacking my dishes. "I should have listened to James." "Well, you're listening now. That's what matters." She paused. "So what are you going to do about it?" I pulled out the 3 file folders and set them on my new kitchen counter. "I'm going to call this lawyer Pastor Williams recommended. Samuel Fletcher." Geneva's eyes lit up. "Oh, I know Sam Fletcher. He goes to Greater Hope. Good man. His mama and I used to be on the usher board together before she passed. He handles elder law, estate planning, financial exploitation cases. Dorothy. He's perfect for this." I picked up my phone and dialed the number on the card before I could talk myself out of it. A professional voice answered. "Fletcher Law Associates. How may I help you?" "Yes, my name is Dorothy Carmichael. Pastor Williams from Greater Hope Baptist gave me this number. I need to speak with Mr. Fletcher about a family matter." "One moment, please." Classical music played while I waited. My heart pounded. What was I doing? This was my daughter, my only child. Was I really going to take legal action against my own baby? Then I remembered her face in that kitchen, cold, dismissive. "Maybe you should find somewhere else to live." "Mrs. Carmichael?" A deep, calm voice came on the line. "This is Samuel Fletcher. Pastor Williams called me this morning and told me you might reach out. Why don't you come by my office tomorrow at 10? We'll talk, and you can decide if you want to proceed with anything. No pressure, no charge for the consultation." "Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. I'll be there." I hung up and looked at Geneva. She squeezed my hand. "You're doing the right thing, Dorothy. You're protecting yourself. That's not wrong. That's wisdom." That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Amara and Jordan. Sweet babies. What would they think of their grandmother if this got ugly? Would Nia turn them against me? My phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A text from Nia. "Mama, we need to talk. This is ridiculous. You're really going to abandon your grandchildren over money? Call me." I stared at that message for a long time. Abandon? I'd given them everything I had, and she was calling me the abandoner? I didn't respond. I turned off my phone and tried to sleep. The next morning, I dressed in my best navy blue suit, the one I used to wear to military functions. I wanted Samuel Fletcher to see me as I was, a retired officer, a woman of dignity, not some helpless old lady who'd been taken advantage of. His office was in a nice building downtown, 3rd floor. The waiting room had comfortable chairs and paintings of Black historical figures on the walls: Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, Rosa Parks. A young Black woman at the reception desk smiled warmly. "Mrs. Carmichael, Mr. Fletcher is ready for you, right through that door." Samuel Fletcher stood when I entered. He was about 50, tall and lean, with silver at his temples and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. He wore a gray suit and a Howard University tie clip. "Mrs. Carmichael, please sit down." He gestured to a comfortable chair across from his desk. "Can I get you some water, coffee?" "Water would be nice, thank you." He poured water from a pitcher and handed me the glass. Then he sat down and folded his hands on his desk. "Pastor Williams told me a little about your situation, but I'd like to hear it from you. Take your time. Tell me everything." So I did. I told him about Nia and Terrence, about 15 years of requests that became demands, about the nearly $500,000 in help that was never paid back, about moving in after James died, about the final request for $300,000 and what happened when I said no. He listened without interrupting, taking notes occasionally. When I finished, I felt exhausted. "Mrs. Carmichael, do you have documentation of these financial transactions?" I pulled out the 3 file folders and set them on his desk. Every check, every bank transfer, every receipt. My late husband started keeping records, and I continued after he passed. Samuel opened the first folder and began reading. His eyebrows rose higher with each page. After about 10 minutes, he looked up at me. "Mrs. Carmichael, I've been practicing law for 25 years. I've handled dozens of financial elder abuse cases. This is one of the most thoroughly documented cases I've ever seen." He tapped the folders. "You have ironclad proof of everything. Dates, amounts, purposes, even text messages and emails asking for money." Is that good?" "It's very good if you want to take legal action." He leaned forward. "Let me be clear about what we're talking about here. What your daughter and son-in-law did is called financial exploitation of an elder. It's illegal in Georgia. You could pursue criminal charges, civil litigation, or both." My stomach tightened. "Criminal charges? I don't want Nia to go to jail. I understand, but you need to understand the full scope of your options." His voice was gentle but firm. "Right now, based on what you've told me, you have about $450,000 left of your original $900,000. That means they've taken roughly half your life savings in less than 3 years of living with them, on top of the $250,000 you gave them before that." Hearing it laid out like that made me feel sick. What can I do? Several things. First, we can file for a restraining order if they're harassing you. Second, we can send them a demand letter, a formal legal document stating that you're owed money and requesting repayment. Third, if they don't respond appropriately, we can file a civil lawsuit to recover the funds. The documentation you have is strong enough that we could potentially get a judgment against them. And what would that mean? A judgment? It means a court would legally declare they owe you money. We could garnish wages, put liens on property, including their house, since you have proof you paid for significant portions of it. We could seize assets to satisfy the debt. I thought about Amara and Jordan, about them losing their house, their stability. "Mr. Fletcher, I don't want to hurt my grandchildren. They didn't do anything wrong." "I understand that. But Mrs. Bounds, Carmichael, your daughter and son-in-law hurt you. They exploited you. They threw you out when you wouldn't give them more, and from what you've told me, they're already trying to manipulate you through guilt." He pointed to my phone. "That text message about abandoning your grandchildren? That's emotional manipulation. Classic abuser behavior." The word abuser hit me like a slap. My daughter is not an abuser. Financial abuse is abuse, Mrs. Carmichael. I know it's hard to hear, but that's what this is, and it doesn't stop unless you stop it. I sat there in silence, feeling the weight of it all. My baby girl, the child I'd carried, raised, loved, sacrificed for. An abuser. I need time to think, I whispered. Of course. Take all the time you need. But while you're thinking, I want you to do 2 things. First, don't give them any more money. Not a penny. If they ask, say no. If they guilt you, say no. If they threaten you, definitely say no. And call me immediately. Second, keep documenting everything. Every text, every call, every interaction. Can you do that? I nodded. Good. He stood and walked me to the door. Mrs. Carmichael, I want you to know something. You served your country for 30 years. You built a life with your husband. You raised a daughter. You've earned the right to peace and security in your old age. Don't let anyone, not even family, take that from you. I drove home with his words ringing in my ears. That Sunday, I went back to Greater Hope Baptist for the first time since moving back to Columbus. The church was just like I remembered. Red brick, white steeple, stained glass windows that cast rainbow light across the pews. The choir was singing Blessed Assurance, and I felt something loosen in my chest. After service, people came up to hug me. Sister Margaret from the kitchen ministry, Deacon Thompson, Brother Ellis, who'd served in the army and always gave me a salute. They welcomed me home like I'd never left. Sister Dorothy! Pastor Williams found me in the fellowship hall during coffee hour. How are you settling in? I'm managing, Pastor. Thank you for recommending Mr. Fletcher. He's a good man. Did he help you? He's giving me a lot to think about. Pastor Williams nodded slowly. Dorothy, I'm going to tell you something my grandmother told me when I was dealing with family trouble. She said, baby, loving someone doesn't mean letting them hurt you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary and enforce it. You think on that. I went home and thought about nothing else. For 2 weeks, I tried to settle into my new life. I joined the senior exercise class at the community center. I volunteered at the church food pantry on Wednesdays. I had lunch with Geneva twice a week. I was building a life that didn't revolve around taking care of ungrateful people. But Nia wouldn't stop calling. At first, it was angry texts. You're being selfish. You're breaking up this family. The kids are asking about you, and I don't know what to tell them. Then she tried a different approach. Sweet messages. Mama, I'm sorry we fought. Can we talk? I miss you. The kids miss you. I didn't respond to any of them. Samuel Fletcher had told me not to engage, and I was following his advice. Then came the phone call from Jordan. Grandma? His little voice cracked. He was only 9 years old. Why don't you live with us anymore? Did we do something wrong? My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Baby, no. You and your sister didn't do anything wrong. Grandma just needed her own space, that's all. But Mama said you left because you don't care about us anymore. She said you chose money over family. I closed my eyes. There it was. Nia was poisoning my grandchildren against me. Jordan, honey, that's not true. I love you and Amara more than anything in this world. Then why won't you help us? Daddy said we might lose the house because you won't give us money. Mama's been crying every night. I felt rage building in my chest. They were using a 9-year-old child to manipulate me. Jordan, baby, everything's gonna be okay, I promise. But Grandma has to go now. I love you so much. I hung up before he could hear me crying. Then I picked up the phone and called Samuel Fletcher. They're using my grandson to guilt me. He's 9 years old and they told him I'm the reason they might lose their house. That's parental alienation, Samuel said, his voice tight with anger. That's another form of abuse. Mrs. Carmichael, I think it's time we send that demand letter. Are you ready? I thought about Jordan's voice, about Nia's manipulation, about 15 years of being drained dry, about being told to leave because I finally said no. Yes, I said. I'm ready. Good. I'll have it drafted and sent by the end of the week. Mrs. Carmichael, once this letter goes out, things are going to escalate. They're going to be angry. They might try harder to manipulate you. Are you prepared for that? I'm a retired Navy captain, Mr. Fletcher. I've faced down things a lot scarier than my daughter's temper tantrum. He laughed. I believe it. I'll be in touch. The demand letter went out on a Friday. It was 5 pages long, professionally worded, and devastating in its detail. It outlined every dollar I'd given them over 15 years. It requested repayment of $475,000 within 30 days. It stated that failure to respond would result in civil litigation. Samuel sent me a copy. I read it 3 times, and each time I felt stronger. Saturday morning, my phone rang at 6 a.m. Nia. I didn't answer. It rang again, and again, and again. Then came the text messages. Over 50 of them in 2 hours. Are you insane? You sent us a legal letter? After everything we've done for you? You're trying to take our house? The kids are traumatized. You're a terrible mother and grandmother. We're going to fight this. You'll never see those kids again. I saved every single message. Then I blocked her number and Terrence's number. But they weren't done. Sunday evening, I got a call from my cousin Rita in South Carolina. Dorothy, what's going on? Nia just called me crying, saying you're trying to destroy her family. She said you're suing her for taking care of you. Then my old friend Pearl from the Navy called. Dorothy, I just saw the most disturbing Facebook post from your daughter. I opened Facebook, something I rarely did, and found a public post from Nia that had been shared over 100 times. My mother is suing my family for $475,000. After we took her in when my father died. After we gave her a home, fed her, cared for her. She's trying to take our house and leave my children homeless. All because we asked her to invest in my husband's business, and she said no. Please pray for us. I never thought my own mother would try to destroy us like this. I guess money really does change people. Hatch, hatch. Heartbroken. Shach, family. Betrayal. Hash, God will judge. There were dozens of comments, some supportive of Nia, some questioning her story. But the damage was done. She was trying to ruin my reputation before the legal battle even started. I called Samuel Fletcher immediately, even though it was Sunday night. She's smearing you publicly, he said after I read him the post. That's defamation. We can add it to the case. Don't respond to the post. Don't defend yourself publicly. That's what she wants, a public fight. We're going to fight this in court where the truth actually matters. How long until we get to court? Could be a few months. We'll file the lawsuit this week. They'll have 30 days to respond. Then we'll go through discovery, depositions, and eventually trial if they don't settle. Mrs. Carmichael, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get worse before it gets better. He was right. Over the next 2 weeks, more relatives called with Nia's version of the story. She told everyone I was senile, greedy, and vindictive. She said I'd promised to pay for Terrence's business and then backed out. She said they'd sacrificed by taking me in, and now I was repaying their kindness with cruelty. I stopped answering calls from anyone except Geneva, Pastor William, and Samuel Fletcher. The lawsuit was filed. Nia and Terrence were officially served with papers. The court date was set for September 2025. Then came the message that broke me. It was a video message on Facebook Messenger from Amara, my 12-year-old granddaughter. I almost didn't watch it, but something made me click. Her face filled the screen, tears streaming down her cheeks. Grandma, how could you? You're trying to take our house. Mom showed me the papers. You want to take everything from us. I thought you loved us, but I guess you only love money. I'll never forgive you for this. Never. The video ended. I sat there staring at my phone screen, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and ripped out my heart. They'd weaponized my grandbabies. Both of them. Poisoned them against me. Made me the villain in a story where I was actually the victim. I called Samuel Fletcher, sobbing so hard I could barely speak. They made Amara. She said she'll never forgive me. Mrs. Carmichael, breathe. Just breathe. Listen to me. What they're doing is despicable, but it's also proof of desperation. They know they're going to lose in court, so they're trying to hurt you any way they can. But here's the truth. When those kids grow up, when they're old enough to understand, they'll see the real story. They'll see what their parents did. Right now, you have to stay strong. I don't know if I can do this. Yes, you can. You're Captain Dorothy Jean Carmichael. You've survived a lot worse than this, and I promise you, we're going to win. That night, I pulled out James's old Bible. He'd written notes in the margins over the years, little messages to himself and to God. I flipped through the pages until I found Psalm 27, one of his favorites. He'd underlined verse 10, "Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me." In the margin, he'd written, "Even when people fail you, God never will. Stand firm, my love." It felt like he was talking directly to me from heaven. I closed the Bible and made a decision. I was going through with this, all the way through, not for revenge, not for the money, but because what they did was wrong, and someone had to say it out loud, even if that someone was me. 3 weeks later, I got a call from Samuel Fletcher. His voice was strange, excited but controlled. "Mrs. Carmichael, we just received their response to the lawsuit. You need to come to my office tomorrow. There's something you need to see." "What is it?" "I don't want to discuss it over the phone. Can you come at 9?" I barely slept that night. The next morning, I sat across from Samuel Fletcher as he slid a document across his desk. "This is their official response to the lawsuit. Read page 3. I read it. Then I read it again. Then I looked up at him in disbelief. They're claiming all the money was loans that I forgave, that I told them they never had to pay me back? That's their defense. They're saying you made voluntary gifts and loans with no expectation of repayment. They're also claiming you owe them money for room and board during the 3 years you lived with them, approximately $75,000. I felt my blood pressure spike. $75,000 for room and board? I paid for half their mortgage. I paid for their roof. I bought their groceries. I know, which is why we're going to destroy this defense in court. They just made a critical mistake. Samuel smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. They put their lies in writing under oath, and now we get to prove they're lying. Discovery starts next week. We're going to go through their financial records, their bank statements, their business records. We're going to depose them under oath. And Mrs. Carmichael, when we're done, the truth is going to be so clear that even they won't be able to deny it. When is the court date? September 15th, 3.5 months from now. Can you hold out that long? I thought about Amara's tearful video, about Jordan's confused voice on the phone, about Nia's Facebook post, about 15 years of being used. I can hold out as long as it takes, I said. Samuel leaned back in his chair. Good, because Mrs. Carmichael, we're about to take them to war. Discovery was brutal. Samuel Fletcher's team went through Nia and Terrence's financial records like an army sweeping through enemy territory. Bank statements, credit card bills, business records, tax returns, everything. And what they found was worse than I'd imagined. Mrs. Carmichael, I need you to sit down for this, Samuel said during our meeting in early July. I sat. We've traced the money you gave them, the mortgage payments you made. They took out a home equity line of credit 6 months later and spent it on a boat. The boat they sold a year after that at a loss. The money you gave them for Jordan's braces? Jordan never got braces. The $25,000 for renovating your room? No permits were ever pulled, no contractors were ever hired. That money went straight into Terrence's failed businesses. My hands started shaking. They lied about all of it? Not all of it, but most of it. And it gets worse. Remember the $75,000 they're claiming you owe them for room and board? I nodded. We found a text message from Nia to her friend from November 2022, 4 months after you moved in. She wrote, and I quote, "Having Mama here is perfect. She's paying for everything and doesn't even realize it. T says we should ask her to invest in his next business. She's basically a walking ATM right now. The world tilted sideways. I gripped the arms of my chair. She called me an ATM to her friends? Samuel's face was hard. That's not even the worst message. We found dozens more. Text messages, emails, Facebook messages to friends and family members. They were bragging about manipulating you. They called it managing Mama's money. They joked about how easy it was to guilt you into paying for things. I couldn't breathe. My own daughter. My baby girl. The child I'd carried in my body, nursed at my breast, rocked to sleep for years. She'd mocked me, used me, laughed at me behind my back. Mrs. Carmichael, I know this is painful, but this evidence is gold for our case. They documented their own fraud. When we get to trial, we're not just going to win, we're going to expose them for exactly what they are. What about the grandchildren? I whispered. What's going to happen to them? That's not your responsibility anymore. Your responsibility is to yourself. But for what it's worth, I don't think they'll lose their house. Terrence's parents have money. Nia has her teaching salary. They'll survive. They just won't survive on your dime anymore. Over the next few weeks, Geneva helped keep me sane. We'd have tea on my little balcony every Thursday afternoon, and she'd remind me why I was doing this. Dorothy, you taught that girl about integrity, hard work, and respect. She chose to throw all that away. That's on her, not you. You're just refusing to be her victim anymore. That's strength, not cruelty. The church community rallied around me too. When word got out about the lawsuit, real word, not Nia's twisted version, people started reaching out. Sister Margaret brought me casseroles. Deacon Thompson checked on me every Sunday. Brother Ellis, who'd dealt with his own family betrayal years ago, sat with me one afternoon and shared his story. My son stole $50,000 from me, he said, forged my signature on checks. When I prosecuted him, half the family stopped talking to me, called me heartless. But you know what? I could sleep at night knowing I'd stood up for myself. That's worth more than family approval built on enabling wrong behavior. His words gave me courage. The depositions happened in August. Samuel told me I didn't have to attend Nia and Terrence's depositions, but I wanted to. I needed to look them in the eye. We sat in a conference room at Samuel's office. Me, Samuel, and his associate on one side of the table. Nia, Terrence, and their lawyer, a young man named Kevin Hart, no relation to the comedian, on the other side. A court reporter sat at the end, typing everything. I hadn't seen my daughter in 5 months. She'd lost weight. She looked tired. When she walked in and saw me sitting there, her face went hard. "Hey, Mama," she said coldly. I didn't respond. Terrence wouldn't even look at me. Samuel started with Terrence. For 3 hours, he methodically went through every business failure, every loan request, every lie. Terrence squirmed and sweated and contradicted himself repeatedly. "Mr. Bolden, you stated in your response that Mrs. Carmichael's payments were gifts with no expectation of repayment, correct?" "Yes." "Then why do we have text messages from you to Mrs. Carmichael saying, 'I'll pay you back as soon as the business takes off'?" I was just being polite." "Polite? You told her you'd pay her back, but you claim she gave you gifts? Which is it?" "It's complicated." "It's actually very simple, Mr. Bolden. You asked for money, promised to repay it, never repaid it, and kept asking for more. That's not a gift. That's fraud." Their lawyer objected constantly, but the damage was done. Terrence's lies were unraveling on the record. Then came Nia's deposition the next day. That was harder to watch. Samuel was gentler with her at first, but then he brought out the text messages. The walking ATM message. The managing Mama's money emails. The Facebook messages where she complained about me being difficult when I questioned expenses. "Ms. Bolden, did you write this text message to your friend Shanice on November 12, 2022? He read the message aloud. I watched my daughter's face crumble. That was taken out of context. What context makes calling your mother an ATM acceptable? Nia's eyes filled with tears. We were stressed. We had bills to pay, and Mama had money just sitting there. She wasn't using it for anything. It wasn't her job to pay your bills, was it? She's my mother. Family helps family. And when family says no, you throw them out of the house? Nia looked at me then, really looked at me for the first time. I saw something flicker in her eyes. Shame, maybe? Regret? But then it was gone, replaced by defiance. She abandoned us when we needed her most. Samuel pulled out another document. According to our accounting, Mrs. Carmichael gave you and your husband $681,000 over 15 years. The median American household income is about $60,000 a year. That means she gave you the equivalent of 11 years of full-time work, and you're claiming she abandoned you? Nia didn't answer. She just cried. I sat there feeling nothing. The woman crying across from me was a stranger. My daughter. My real daughter, the one who used to curl up next to me on the couch and watch movies, who used to call me every Sunday just to talk, who used to tell me I was her hero. That girl was gone. I'd been grieving her for months, and now I was just numb. After the depositions, Samuel was confident. They're going to try to settle. Their lawyer knows they can't win at trial. They'll offer to drop their counterclaim for room and board if you drop your lawsuit. No settlement, I said firmly. We're going to trial. I want this on the record. I want a judge to look at those receipts and say out loud what they did to me. Are you sure? Trial is risky, and it's going to be emotionally difficult. I'm sure. Captain's orders, Mr. Fletcher. He smiled. Yes, ma'am. September 15th arrived like Judgment Day. I wore my Navy dress uniform, something I hadn't done in years. If I was going into battle, I was going in as Captain Carmichael. Geneva came with me for support. So did Pastor Williams, Sister Margaret, and a dozen other church members. They filled the courtroom benches behind me. Nia and Terrence arrived with their lawyer. Nia's parents were there too. Her father looked ashamed. Her mother looked furious at me. The courtroom was small, just wood benches and a judge's bench at the front, the state seal of Georgia on the wall. Judge Patricia Monroe entered, a black woman in her 60s with silver hair and sharp eyes. She looked at the packed courtroom and raised an eyebrow. This is quite the audience for a civil case. Let's get started. This is Carmichael v. Bolden, case number CV 2025-3847. Are both parties ready? Ready. Your Honor, Samuel said. Ready, said Kevin Hart, though he looked like he wished he was anywhere else. Judge Monroe looked at the file in front of her. I've reviewed the pleadings and the discovery materials. This is a case about money loaned to family members, correct? Not just loaned, Your Honor, Samuel said. Fraudulently obtained through manipulation and lies, and never repaid despite promises to do so. We'll let the evidence show that. Mr. Fletcher, call your first witness. The plaintiff calls Dorothy Jean Carmichael to the stand. I walked to the witness box, my knees shaking but my spine straight. I was sworn in, placed my hand on the Bible, and promised to tell the truth. Samuel took me through the whole story, from the first small loan in 2010 to the final demand for $300,000. Every detail. Every lie, every manipulation. I kept my voice steady, even when talking about the hardest parts, about James dying, about moving in with them, about being thrown out. Mrs. Carmichael, why did you keep giving them money even after your husband expressed concerns? Because I loved my daughter, and I wanted to believe the best of her. I thought I was helping my family. I thought that's what mothers do. And when did you realize you weren't helping them? You were enabling them. When she told me to leave her house because I wouldn't give them more. That's when I understood I wasn't her mother anymore. I was just her ATM. I saw Nia flinch at that word. Kevin Hart cross-examined me, trying to make it seem like I'd been a controlling mother who used money to manipulate them. But every question he asked, I had an answer. Every accusation he made, I had receipts. Literally. Mrs. Carmichael, isn't it true that you held money over your daughter's head to control her life choices? No, sir. I gave freely when they asked. I never demanded anything in return except honesty. But you kept detailed records of every penny. That sounds controlling to me. My late husband kept those records because he was a careful man who'd worked hard for his money. I continued keeping them because I needed to know where my money was going. That's not control, that's responsibility. The judge nodded slightly at that. Samuel called his next witness, a forensic accountant named Dr. Patricia Green. She'd analyzed all the financial records, and she had charts, graphs, and spreadsheets. She showed exactly where every dollar went. Your Honor, Mrs. Carmichael gave the defendants $681,000 over 15 years. Only $47,000 of that went to legitimate expenses that benefited the entire family, like groceries during the time she lived with them. The remaining $634,000 went to mortgage payments, car payments, failed business ventures, luxury purchases, and credit card debt. None of it was repaid. Additionally, the defendants took out new loans and credit lines immediately after receiving money from Mrs. Carmichael, suggesting they were using her money to fund a lifestyle they couldn't actually afford. It was damning. Absolutely damning. Then Samuel called Nia to the stand. She looked small sitting there. Her lawyer had clearly told her to show remorse, but she couldn't quite manage it. She kept glancing at her parents in the gallery, then at me. Samuel was merciless. He went through every text message, every email, every lie. The walking ATM text was projected on a screen for everyone to see. Ms. Bolden, you referred to your mother as a walking ATM in this message. Can you explain what you meant by that? I was frustrated and venting to a friend. I didn't mean it. You sent 17 similar messages over 2 years. That's a lot of venting. Nia's face crumpled. I know it looks bad. It doesn't just look bad. It is bad. You systematically exploited your mother for nearly $700,000, and when she finally said no, you threw her out of your house. Is that accurate? We didn't throw her out. She chose to leave. Samuel pulled out another document. According to the text messages, you told her, and I quote, "If you're not going to help us when we need you most, then maybe you should find somewhere else to live." That sounds like throwing her out to me. Nia started crying. Real, ugly crying. I was angry. We were about to lose everything, and she just didn't care. You weren't about to lose everything. You were about to lose the luxury lifestyle you'd been living on your mother's dime. There's a difference. Judge Monroe interrupted. Mr. Fletcher, I think you've made your point. Ms. Bolden, compose yourself. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Nia looked at me through her tears. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know we were wrong. I know we used you. But I was scared, and Terrence kept saying everything would work out, and I'm sorry. It was the first genuine thing she'd said in months. But sorry doesn't give back 15 years and $681,000. I have nothing further, Your Honor, Samuel said. Terrence took the stand next, and he was a disaster. He couldn't keep his story straight. He contradicted himself, got defensive, blamed Nia, blamed the economy, blamed me for not believing in him. By the end, even his own lawyer looked disgusted. After lunch, Samuel presented the 3 file folders, all the receipts, all the documentation, all the proof. He entered them into evidence, and Judge Monroe spent 30 minutes looking through them while we all sat in silence. Finally, she looked up. I'm ready to rule. My heart pounded so hard I thought everyone could hear it. This is one of the clearest cases of financial elder abuse I've seen in my 20 years on the bench. Mrs. Carmichael, your documentation is extraordinary. You have proven beyond any doubt that the defendants systematically exploited you for nearly $700,000. The text messages and emails show clear intent to defraud. The testimony shows a pattern of manipulation and emotional abuse. The financial records show they had no intention or ability to repay you. She turned to Nia and Terrence. Ms. Bolden, Mr. Bolden, what you did to your mother was reprehensible. You took advantage of her grief, her love for her grandchildren, and her generous nature. You lied to her repeatedly. You mocked her behind her back. And when she finally set a boundary, you punished her by taking away access to her grandchildren and slandering her publicly. Nia was sobbing. Terrence stared at the table. Therefore, I rule in favor of the plaintiff. The defendants are jointly and severally liable for $634,000, the amount Mrs. Carmichael paid beyond reasonable expenses. I'm also awarding punitive damages of $50,000 for the emotional distress caused by the defendant's conduct. Finally, I'm awarding attorney's fees and court costs. Total judgment, $714,000. The courtroom erupted. Geneva grabbed my hand and squeezed. Pastor Williams whispered, "Thank you, Jesus." The church members behind me were crying and hugging each other. Judge Monroe banged her gavel. I'm not finished. The defendants have 30 days to begin repayment. I'm ordering the sale of non-essential assets, including the boat, luxury vehicles, and other items purchased with Mrs. Carmichael's money. I'm placing a lien on the marital residence for the remaining balance. Additionally, I'm ordering the defendants to complete a financial literacy course and undergo family counseling before they'll be allowed supervised visitation with the plaintiff's grandchildren, should the plaintiff choose to allow it. She looked at me then. Mrs. Carmichael, you have the right to enforce this judgment however you see fit. You can garnish wages, seize assets, or work out a payment plan. That's your decision. But I want you to know that this court sees you. This court validates your experience. What happened to you was wrong, and today, justice is done. I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears streaming down my face. We're adjourned. The gavel came down with a final decisive crack. Outside the courtroom, I was surrounded by people hugging me, congratulating me, crying with me. Samuel Fletcher shook my hand. Captain Carmichael, you just won one of the biggest elder abuse judgments I've ever seen. How do you feel? Free, I whispered. For the first time in 15 years, I feel free. Nia tried to approach me as I was leaving, but Geneva and Sister Margaret formed a protective wall. Mama, please, Nia called out. I turned back. She looked broken, devastated. Part of me, the mother part that never fully dies, wanted to run to her, hold her, tell her it would be okay. But I didn't. Nia, I loved you with everything I had. I gave you everything I could, and you threw it away. Maybe someday we can heal this, but not today. Today, you need to understand that actions have consequences. I hope you learn that lesson before your children have to learn it about you. I walked away. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done, but it was also the most necessary. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. The judgment made the news. Elderly Navy veteran wins $714K in elder abuse case. Suddenly, I was getting calls from journalists, from other elder abuse victims asking for advice, from lawyers asking how I'd documented everything so thoroughly. Samuel Fletcher's office handled most of it, but I did do one interview with a local news station. I wanted people to know that financial elder abuse is real. It often comes from family members, and it's okay to stand up for yourself. Don't let anyone tell you that setting boundaries with family is wrong, I said to the camera. Love doesn't mean letting people hurt you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and for them, is to say no. The video went viral. I got thousands of messages from people sharing their own stories of family exploitation. It was heartbreaking, but also hopeful. People were waking up. They were standing up for themselves. Terrence's parents paid off a chunk of the judgment to avoid having Nia and Terrence's house seized, $200,000. The boat and Terrence's BMW were sold for another $85,000. The The rest would be paid through wage garnishment over the next 10 years. I would never get all my money back. I knew that. But it wasn't really about the money anymore. It was about the principle. It was about my dignity. It was about showing my grandchildren that even when people you love hurt you, you don't have to accept it. 3 months after the trial, I got a letter in the mail. It was from Amara, my 12-year-old granddaughter. Dear Grandma, Mom and Dad are in counseling now. They talk about money different. Dad got a real job at an insurance company. Mom's been crying a lot. I read the court papers. I'm old enough to understand now. I know what they did to you. I know what they said about you. I'm sorry I sent that video. Mom told me you were the bad guy, but you weren't. I'm sorry, Grandma. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me. I don't know if you'll ever want to see me again. But I wanted you to know that I know the truth now. And when I grow up, I want to be strong like you. I want to stand up for myself the way you did. I love you, Grandma. I always will. Love, Amara. I cried for an hour after reading that letter. Then I called Samuel Fletcher. I want to arrange supervised visits with my grandchildren, not at their house, somewhere neutral, maybe at the church. I think that's a wise decision, Mrs. Carmichael. I'll set it up. The first visit happened in December, in a small room at Greater Hope Baptist. Amara and Jordan came with a court-appointed supervisor. They were awkward and nervous at first, but then Jordan ran to me and hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. I missed you, Grandma. I missed you too, baby. So much. Amara stood back, uncertain. I opened my arms, and she slowly came to me. I'm sorry, she whispered. I know, sweetheart. I forgive you. You were put in a terrible position. That wasn't your fault. We spent an hour together. I brought cookies I'd baked. We talked about school, about their friends, about their lives. I didn't ask about their parents, and they didn't mention them. We were just grandma and grandkids, rebuilding something that had been broken. As for Nia and Terrence, I haven't spoken to them since the trial. I heard through the grapevine that they're doing better. Terrence actually working a steady job, Nia teaching and taking on extra tutoring. They sold the pool. They downsized their lifestyle. Maybe the judgment taught them something after all. I don't know if Nia and I will ever have a real relationship again. The trust is shattered, and trust takes a long time to rebuild, if it can be rebuilt at all. But I've made peace with that. I did everything I could as a mother. What she does with the lessons from all this is up to her. As for me, I'm thriving. I moved into a slightly bigger apartment, 2 bedrooms so the grandkids can visit. I'm active in my church. I volunteer at the senior center, teaching other elders how to protect themselves from financial abuse. I have lunch with Geneva twice a week, go to exercise class on Mondays and Thursdays, and I've even started dating a nice man named Walter, who's a retired Army colonel. We have a lot in common. I still have my file folders, those 3 precious folders that spoke the truth when no one else would. They sit in my closet now, a reminder of what I survived and what I overcame. People ask me if I regret taking my daughter to court. The answer is no, not for a second. I regret that it was necessary. I regret that she put me in a position where I had to choose between my dignity and her manipulation. But I don't regret standing up for myself. I'm 73 years old. I'm a retired Navy captain, a widow, a mother, and a grandmother. I'm also a survivor of financial elder abuse. And I'm here to tell anyone listening, it's never too late to stand up for yourself. It's never too late to say no. It's never too late to demand the respect you deserve. Those 15 years of receipts didn't just speak in court that day. They roared. They told my story when I didn't have the strength to tell it myself. They proved what I knew in my heart, that I wasn't crazy, wasn't selfish, wasn't wrong. I was just a mother who loved too much and gave too freely. And when I finally set a boundary, those receipts stood as witnesses to the truth. Justice was served, my dignity was restored, and most importantly, I got my life back. That's worth more than any amount of money. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to subscribe and feel free to share your story in the comments. Your voice matters,